Howdy, howdy from the grand land of Olean. Welcome back to the Self-Reflection Podcast. Once again, today we will be doing a read-along from Ken Weber's Maximum Entertainment 2.0. If you missed yesterday, you can go ahead and check that out above. And basically, we went over the acknowledgments and the table of contents. Today, we will be starting with Section 1. And as we move forward with this series, we're going to try to bolster the things that we do, give you some texture to the video. We might throw in some magic. I also want to include, because this is self-reflection, I want to include breaks for water and for maybe some exercise breaks, like some follow-along push-ups or something along the lines just to get us motivated and to really start to grow. Now, if I go to my phone here, take a look here, we have my YouTube channel. We put a poll up yesterday. We want to get some of this housekeeping stuff out of the way before we get to the read along. I will post the timestamp for when we actually start the read along if you're not interested in the fluff of the channel, right? Because there's things that we want to talk about just so that you guys are aware. Yeah, so we've had 7 votes on this for daily. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into daily content, reading all this entire book for you. So that's gonna be fun. And what we will do is we'll do like once we hit certain milestones, we will do lives. Now I do want to talk about the post that I have here because that's the first one. I haven't posted it in the community section. But what I do have is I uploaded a short that is sponsored book giveaway, right? Because it's kind of like a giveaway, but with your help. So every time that I do one of these videos, I will proceed it as an instant premiere. And for 3 hours preceding the video, we will be accepting super thanks and super chats. You can always donate to the channel in any way you want. One of the things that I like to do on the back end is a card giveaway, a gift away per se, which basically means that anytime that you donate something to the channel, I will immediately reinvest it into the channel. So if you wanted to do a card giveaway, if you donated $5, I would give away a deck of cards every single time. We still have this giveaway, and I feel bad for the couple. There was like 3 or 4 people that entered this last year, but we still haven't had a chance to give it away. So let's go ahead and talk about this real quick. You just comment on any video, card giveaway. This is a whole brick of cards. 12 decks of cards are in here. 6 of them are exclusive Kickstarters that you might not find anywhere else. The other 6 are bicycle brand cards. We've got 2 emoji decks, 2 blue backs, and 2 red backs. You're going to get a full allotment. Some of these decks are open only for the purpose of the review. Some of them are still sealed. So there is 12 decks of cards that you have the opportunity to win just by entering the giveaway. We still need a total of 12 people in that giveaway. We have 3 or 4. I'd have to go back and check. So we still need 8 people. Now, we also have a ring that was purchased from Copeland Coins before they closed the physical shop. All you have to comment is the ring giveaway. Now, it is a size 10 black tungsten ring. So you have a chance to enter that giveaway as well. That one, it just really depends on how we could do them both together. We can do them separately. We just need more people to get involved with the giveaways and the channel before we maximize the potential of the giveaway. Now, let's get back to the sponsored book giveaway. Maximum Entertainment 2.0. For every super thanks and super chats that we receive as part of this project, I will match whatever you donate to the channel. If you donate $10, I will donate $10. If you donate $50, I will donate $50. If you donate $1 million, well, let's make sure that we are very careful with how much we donate to the channel. It's really one of those take it or double it scenarios that they parodied on social media, because the reality of it is it's a charity work, right? The purpose is to give out what you receive, but also receive a little bit of publicity in the act of it, which is it's a win-win for everybody. The reality of it is, though, is that the organization that is putting on this charity event, such as myself with this book giveaway, that I have a certain cap, right? I have a certain number where like it then becomes not feasible for me to donate. Or it might take me longer period of time to get the funds. So if we did one book a month, that would be great. Now we're doing daily content, which means this should be done within the period of a month. I'm not saying it'll be done in March, but I'm saying within 30 days, it should be done. Now the question is, for you, how many books can you donate in that amount of time? How many books can we get together? How many books can we get for the viewers so that they also can have the opportunity to get this book? Maybe they don't have the opportunity right now. Maybe it's not available. Maybe it's hard to ship to them. We will find a way, if we can, to get it to people, because people should have access to this material. So, all that considered, let's see how many we can get. At the end of keep in mind, at the end of these videos, make sure you check out it allows me to do for 3 hours after the video. You'll have that opportunity. Now I'm going to set the limit at 5, but we might open that up a little bit if things start rolling. I just don't know. I don't know what goals we can look for here. I don't know how much money we can gain. I just know that this book is $40. So let's break that down. For every $20 that you donate, I will donate $20 as well, and we will buy one of these books from whatever site is offering it, so that we can get it in the hands of one of our audience members, so that they can follow along and so that they can have access to this resource as well. So I really appreciate you guys coming along. Don't forget to take those breaks as we take the breaks as we get along. And let's get into section 1. As we're flipping through the pages for the introduction here, today's music is brought to you by Zenbuster Music. Not that there is any affiliation there, not that there's any connection. It's a royalty-free music channel, but I just want to share their name with you so that you know. It's from Roberto Blake, as well as part of the project with other people. Roberto Blake is my YouTube guy. He's the go-to guy that I use for all things YouTube. Now, I do have multiple YouTube people, but he's my primary, and so I listen closely when he says things, and he has helped out the channel immensely just from listening to his podcast and to the information that he puts out there. Create Something Awesome Academy. Check it out today. Okay, let's get started with the read now. Finally, right? Here he goes. Now he's actually doing the thing that we're here for. Honesty is hardly ever heard, but mostly what I need from you, Billy Joel. Introduction. One of the most successful mentalists in the world frequently begins his show with a warm-up exercise to get his mind in gear. He calls it mental calisthenics. Except that, for a time, he pronounced it calisthetics. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right at all either. The tradition in most performing arts says that we always stroke a performer after a show and save our true feelings for ourselves, or we share them with other people or with others and leave the performer no wiser. I've grown weary of that mindset. I love my craft too much. We sink or swim together. Bad magic and weak mentalism smear all magicians and mentalists. And surely the opposite is true. Successful performers increase demand for the genre. The mentalist in this story is a dear friend. With some trepidation, I told him about his mispronunciation. At first, he was sure I was mistaken. After all, he holds advanced university degrees and had been saying that line for years. Are you sure? He asked again, with a combination of skepticism and worry. Yes, I'm certain, I replied, not knowing whether I was stepping over some ego-prescribed line. Calisthenics? Aesthetics? I see. Okay. He said them both several times, then he looked directly at me, put his hands on my shoulder, and said, Thanks, Ken. He knew that wasn't easy for me, and he wanted to make it clear he was grateful. That one word was an infinitesimally small amount within a masterful 1-hour presentation. But as working pros know, every moment counts, and we can always raise the level of our show. The friendship endured, and I woke up to the need for sharing, rather than hiding our honest opinions. My purpose within these pages is to look at the small moments and some larger issues as well, that raise or lower the level of your performance. Traditional magic books, videos, and lectures give you the mechanics of the tricks. This book examines the other elements that comprise a successful entertainment experience. The cement between the bricks. Powerful words. Love it. Okay. Whew, getting those vocal cords warmed up as we get along here. When I was 16 years old, I wrote a teen magazine advice. Sorry, title. Forgot the title there. You know what? We can actually jump over here real quick, just for the fun of it. If you wanted to actually see what I was reading, there it is. It's upside down and might be a little blurry, but now you can see the book. So you know I'm not doing it from memory. Teen magazine advice. When I was 16 years old, I wrote up a card trick that appeared in a magazine for teenage magicians. I urged the readers of my simple little trick to make it entertaining. It's not that I knew what that meant, but I had seen the phrase written by so many others that I assumed it was mandatory. From the day you began reading your first magic book, you have been repeatedly reminded that your job is to entertain your audience. Your tricks must be entertaining. Don't forget, you are an entertainer. Entertainment, entertaining, entertainer. Blah, blah, blah. Easily written, rarely defined. Those are admonitions. Admonitions appear in our literature so often they have evolved into vapid cliches. This is where we learn whether or not we can read. That's a big. But what exactly? Because you say it in your head so much that you might actually forget what the word sounds like out loud. But let's see here. But what exactly is entertainment? Specifically, what makes one trick entertaining and another merely a puzzle? What actions, gestures, or words levitate a conjuring trick into something recognized as entertainment? And equally important, what specifically detracts from the entertainment experience? In other words, how do you achieve entertainment? Those are the questions we tackle in this book, and we'll do it at some point in great detail. Ken who? Until the original publication of this book, you would never have seen my name in a major magic publication, and I am not clever enough to have invented any commercial tricks. I'm including a brief autobiography here for two reasons. Primarily, since I am offering advice, sometimes delivering bluntly, this book may have more credence for you if you understand my background, my qualifications as an expert. Knowing that I've managed to achieve a significant level of success as an entertainer may allow medicine to go down more easily. Secondly, I enjoy reading other stories about a life in magic and would like to think that you feel the same. So please allow me to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Jesse. Subscribe today. It really helps out the channel. Thank you. You got to put the plugs in there where you can find the opportunity. I'm a native New Yorker. Wait, so am I. But from ages 10 through 12, I lived in a home for asthmatic children in Denver, Colorado. Well, that's where the similarities end. Back then, the mid-1950s, asthma was a fairly rare and highly misunderstood disease, and one theory held that it has a strong psychosomatic component. That approach, since discredited, posited that parents might inadvertently be a trigger for the attack. So after years of unsuccessfully trying other treatments, my parents, heartbroken, shipped me off alone to the foothills of the Rockies. They were allowed only 2 one-week visits during 25 months. Sad to think back on it now, but the experience held the key, for better or worse, to my entry into show business. During the middle of that 2-year stretch, while walking in downtown Denver with a friend, and unoccupied by any adult, life was different for 11-year-olds then. I stopped at the window of a store unlike anything I'd seen before. At first, I thought it was a toy store, but there were masks and gags and tricks. A young man emerged from the store and said to me, "Do you like magic?" I guess so. "Well, come here next Saturday for a free magic show." It turned out the free magic show was actually a meeting of a teenage magic club, and that afternoon changed my life. I began reading everything on magic in the local libraries. I found it curious that most magicians don't know the significance of 793.8. Hint, ask your librarian. By the time I moved back to New York, I thought of myself as a 12-year-old magician. At age 15, I first saw my name in print. TV Guide listed me as the teen talent guest on the popular Wonderama children's show with Sonny Fox, the host prior to magician Bob McAllister. For a few weeks during the 1964 World's Fair, I held the title of official magician at the RCA Pavilion, among others. Peter Pete and the Amazing Randy also filled that role for short periods. Peter Pitt, not Peter Pete. The RCA folks exploited my talents to help introduce color TV to the passing public. "Ladies and gentlemen," the young female tour guides intoned. Sorry. "Ladies and gentlemen, if you look through the windows down into the television set, you'll see our magician. Now look at the color TV monitors above you. Notice the red of the handkerchief he's waving around. See how the red appears the same as what you see in the studio." I don't know who's saying but we'll just do all the tones. Saturday afternoons during my late teen and early 20 years followed a pattern. First step, Louis Tannen's store, where I'd hang out watching demonstrations of tricks I couldn't afford. Then at 3 p.m., when the shop closed, I'd either head to El Flosso's shop or move with the gang to the cafeteria to schmooze with guys like Frank Garcia, Richard Himber, Harry Lorraine, Ken Krenzel, and many others who were or became stars in the magic world. My best friend in magic back then was Jeff Sheridan, the person who single-handedly brought the art of street magic back to America. Sometimes Jeff and I would leave Tannen's and just bop around Manhattan, practicing our latest tricks on comely females. Other times, we took the subway downtown to Flosso's dingy shop. More about this great man and my personal entertainment highlights. One day, Jeff introduced me to a young lad who was standing at Tannen's counter, accompanied by one of his parents. The demonstrator was spending a good deal of time with the kid, a sure sign he smelled money. I could never fathom scenes like that. My parents barely tolerated my addictive hobby. And here was a kid whose parents encouraged encouraged his interest in magic. Jeff told me that not only did the folks buy tricks for that spoiled brat, that's how I viewed him and all others who came to the shop with a parent, usually just once or twice, never to be seen, never to being seen again. They were even paying Jeff to give him card manipulation lessons. Ha! What a waste of money. Everyone knows, certainly I knew, that you must suffer for your art. No pain, no gain. Handing him magic on a silver platter would only soften him and make him cower once he experienced failure in front of strangers. Nonetheless, the parents kept paying, and the kid diligently continued his lessons, surprising me, and as I recall, to a lesser extent, Jeff as well. Whatever became of that kid, David Kotkin. Okay, brief pause here for a second, because I do want to point this out. I don't know who David Kotkin is, and I will look it up because I feel like it's important to pull the information from these books. But immediately preceding that is a life lesson, not just for performing magic, but for many things. You have to suffer for your art. No pain, no gain. We've heard that in weightlifting. We've heard that in every walk of life no pain, no gain, was literally a movie, or Pain and Gain, or whatever it was. So this is a principle that everybody should adhere to here, is that there's a separation between learning magic and performing tricks, especially for me on the computer. I can practice here in the studio for 10 hours before I upload a trick that's perfect. Okay, and I should be doing that. I should be practicing for days and days and days until it's perfect to put out there. The moment you step outside your door into the wilds, everything changes. The reason why we practice is so that our brain doesn't have to worry about the moves, and you can focus on the performance. But no matter how good you are at performing a trick, I use the word performing, let's change that up. No matter how good you are at the mechanics of a trick, performing it is different in front of people. It's a completely different game. Completely different game. So that means that you have to practice differently because you have people around you. It's not just the camera. That's why magicians practice with the 3 mirrors, so that you can see the different angles. So many things that you have to consider when you're out in the wild. And the only way to get better at performing is to perform. I mean, you hear this all the time in comedy. Some of the giants right now in the comic arena, we're starting to see their earlier work. We're starting to see those things pop up from when they were in the nightclubs, when they were in the back rooms. We hear the stories constantly because that's how they got good. They spent 10 years not doing bad, but they spent 10 years as a nobody until they became somebody. And all of that material that they had been doing is now making them famous because now they can perform. Now they're getting better. Now, some of them had natural talent as it was, but they'll even tell you, they had to really, some of them really struggled, and some of them have accelerated to stardom that is unprecedented. Precedented because of the globalization of entertainment. I mean, we have the internet, we have TV, we have all these things that you can do all of this from a screen. That's crazy, but it's not the same unless you're in the theater with them, unless you're at the foot of the stage, unless you can feel what is being delivered to you directly. It's completely different. You can listen to music over the internet. You can listen to it. I've heard somebody state that a record player has so much more technicality to it of sound than a CD does. So we've actually lost music because we're using inferior technology because they wanted it to be smaller. But when you listen to a clean record, when you listen to something that it explodes with sound, it has so much flavor and texture to it compared to just listening to a microbit on an MP3 player. You're losing so much. But I digress. Main point of that is you have to get out there and perform. You have to practice your performance, and you have to fail. Unfortunately, you're going to have bad days. But those bad days make the next day even better, because then you know that within that failure, there was a lesson that you could learn from that you're not going to get just from practicing in the studio. Here we go. Higher learning for me took place at Long Island's Hofstra University, where I majored in speech and drama. That combined major was chosen because it, A, seemed useful to my magic career, and B, was easier than a real major. It was there that I began my formal study of acting and directing. Thanks to the first-rate reputation of Hofstra's drama department, the facility included talented people from nearby New York City. Writers, directors, and actors with Broadway experience were more than happy to sign on for steady paychecks. Those teachers showed me the collaborative nature of entertainment. It was at Hofstra that I first experienced the technique of the director, sitting alone in the theater, watching the rehearsals, taking notes. Director's notes. One person sitting where the audience sits, objectively observing and writing notes. One person coaching another. It's the backbone of theater. After earning my bachelor, I just want to make this quick side note, not to go on a sidebar like this last one. We're really learning some details here. These are really important things that if you're taking notes on this, or if you have a book of your own, underline it, do sticky tabs. It's your book. Do whatever you want. Put a sticky tab there so that you know that you can just get right to it. These are gems, because when you get further down the line, if you start doing stage performances or anything like that, you're going to want a director, whether that's a professional director if you're doing stage magic, or if you have a confidant or a friend who isn't afraid to bust your chops, like, hey, that didn't deliver the way you thought it did. Have somebody watch your stuff, rehearse it over and over and over again, and have somebody give you feedback. Pay somebody. It's going to be beneficial to you. After earning my Bachelor of Arts degree, I went on to Brooklyn College of the City University of New York. There I picked up a master's degree in broadcasting, and all my elective courses were, again, as at Hofstra, related to either acting or directing. During my 2 years' time at Brooklyn College, I produced and hosted what we were told was the first student-run TV program in the United States to have a regular run on a broadcast station. It was, in fact, a forerunner of MTV, with music and news strictly for young adults. Yet, despite what I considered an impressive resume, no company in TV land shared my enthusiastic opinion of me, and so I took a temp office job. This was back when there were just 3 TV networks and scattered local TV outlets. Today, the opportunities in film and television are vastly greater. 3 months later, I received the call that morphed my avocation into my profession. An agent said he could book me for 2 weeks performing on cruise ships. That meant quitting my steady job for the vagaries of showbiz, and it fostered an inner conversation regarding the pros and cons of the 2 choices. Work in an office for people I don't like and who don't like me, or get paid twice as much to sail around the Caribbean and do magic and mentalism, but with no secure prospects afterward. I packed my bags. Gone. For several years, I worked with some regularity on the ships of the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. Later on, I discovered that other cruise lines didn't treat their entertainers nearly as well. I was paid 2 to 3 times as much as smaller acts on other lines. Plus, we cabaret entertainers were also treated with more respect. Not that we didn't work hard. I did 2 45-minute afternoon shows, then transferred to another ship. Sometimes the transfer involved walking across the pier. Other times the entertainers were put on a small private plane and whisked off to meet a ship on a different island. Regardless of the work schedule, when not performing, we were no different from any paying guest on those floating luxury resorts. Not bad for a kid just out of school. Another side note, because these are really important as we go through this book and we really pull from this information, performing on cruise ships is very popular still, even now. I mean, but we've heard from a couple of different people that do it regularly that you are required to be a little bit more capped with everything that you do, because it's not like if you're performing in town and let's say it's not going well and you just cut the show. Like, you're on the cruise ship, you're out there, so your shows have to be, there's not a whole lot of flexibility. I'm hearing from your act. Like, sometimes what you would do if you were going to perform, you'd want to keep some mystery. On the cruise ship, some people were saying that they really don't want any guesswork. They need to know exactly what you're doing and how you're going to be doing it, because they just don't have the same resources. And especially if something happens, like, they can't have you out there after a week and they don't like it. Like, you got to be good from the beginning and to the end. I then migrated to doing an ever-increasing number of what agents call club dates. Despite the name, those were any type of paid one-night show for any audience. That's when I began traveling across America. It was during those years, the late 1970s, that I began developing my hypnosis show. These days, one can supposedly learn stage hypnosis from any of several weekend courses or a 2-hour video. That's a regrettable development. My hypnosis training included, in addition to my own extensive reading of hypnosis books from college libraries, courses at 2 local universities, plus an intensive correspondence course from the UCLA School of Medicine, which earned me a certificate in clinical hypnosis, good for 4 medical school credits. To go back to the cruise ship thing briefly, not to deter you if you're interested in cruise ships, on one hand, that sounds like, oh, no flexibility, but on the other hand, that means you got to be good. Like, and that's a good thing. That means if you can be successful on a cruise ship, I mean, if that's what you want to do and you're good at it, everything else should be easy then, because well, not easy per se, but if you're required to perform at a higher standard all the time, then when you go back to your other stuff, you don't get lazy or complacent. So something to consider. Also here talking about how things have changed, where before he had to put in all this work, and then now you have people who are just picking it up, whether it's good or bad. I mean, that's debatable because I'm not familiar with that type of work. My guess is that if he's doing all this other work and he's building a foundation, you're not going to get that same foundation in 2 hours. Among the club dates was a steady stream of gigs in New York's infamous Catskill Mountains. The circuit there was composed of hotels and bungalow colonies, which housed the most jaded audiences in the world. Most of the habitants had been going to the mountains forever, which in some cases meant before man learned to bake bread, and all the resorts provided a non-stop stream of entertainment. Impressing those folks required more than a smile and a clean suit, but it was also the best training around for a young performer. You learned how to overcome apathy, extremes of temperature, outright antagonism, you're not the stripper, and distractions of every variety. And if you proved yourself worthy to the agents, you had the dubious honor of doing 2 or 3 shows on a Saturday night, each at a different resort. Now, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the other side of the spectrum, right? Because if you're performing on a cruise ship where your itinerary has to be boop, 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 you can't bring all this extra stuff because the next performer has to come on. You don't have time for the transfers. You got to be good, quick, and in and out type of thing. Now we're talking about some of the extenuating stuff of performing one audience. Like maybe you have people who are not there for that per se, but now they're upset. But then you're also dealing with temperature, because some props work differently based on the temperature. And then the other distractions. Like there's certain things that we've learned from Doug Kahn that you should carry a side bag that has no magic in it. Like the purpose of that bag is to carry your water, your snacks, and maybe some lotion. Or you might want moisturizer, but then you also might want something that's going to dry out your hands so that way they're not sticky. So maybe like a wet wipes and things like that. So you're going to want these utility items that you don't really think about on the front end because you're going to be out there performing all day and you don't have time to keep, because you're losing money if you're trying to go someplace to get something real quick. Like you got to stay on the circuit, especially if you're doing the type of stuff he would do, street performing. Once you've got your spot, if you you move your seat, you lose it. Like that's, you got to stay. He's also talking about here about traveling around, because even now it's very popular for a busker, in order to be very successful, or even just that. You look at the big performers, they're on tour, they're traveling around. If you get to a certain level in your working repertoire where you're going to be performing bigger shows, you're going to have to travel. That might mean leaving your homestead. That might mean leaving your state. That might travel the world. Like, depending on how good and how big you get, you have to be prepared for the fact that you're going to be seeking out your audiences further and further away. So you got to be prepared to be a troubadour. You have to be prepared to be on the road. So something to consider. Next followed the college circuit, where needless to say, the audiences looked, sounded, and smelled different. Those kids had a natural affinity for my memory, mentalism, and hypnosis demonstrations, and at one point, Newsweek magazine named me one of the most requested performers on the college circuit. Now there's a funny thing about becoming a professional. When your hobby is your vacation, your perspectives change. For me, that changed over the course of a few years, was a major one. As I became more successful, I stopped going to magic conventions. I let my subscriptions to the magazines lapse. I rarely bought new books and tricks, and I hardly ever visited any magic shops. Magic was no longer my hobby. My focus became the business side of show business, and as a result, I felt reluctant to introduce new material into my act. That is not an incorrect strategy. Every show is important for the professional, so why tinker with a winning formula? And if I was not going to bring new material into the act, why tease myself by seeing what others were offering in the shops and magazines? Why take money from my family's budget if I could not justify new magic as a business expense? Right or wrong, that's how life went for more than a decade. Once again, we're seeing these little gems here, because this is something that a lot of the older magicians talk about. And I say older, not in age, but in experience. Enjoy being a hobbyist. Like, I enjoy being a hobbyist, and so I'd love to be full time. But the reality of it is that if you become full time, then you don't have time for the magic. Like, it's strange to say it that way, but you're then performing the magic for the audience. If you only do magic for yourself, but to share it, that's fine. But if you're doing it to receive money, then you have to chase the money and chase the audience. So then you start to lose touch with the back end of that, which is the magic. So just keep in mind that, and this is something that Jason Marr and Josh Nobito said in like one of the first episodes of the Magic Guys podcast, is enjoy this time while it lasts. Because this is when you get to practice and you get to explore and you get to do all this magic. Because once you start performing, it's the same trick over and over and over again. You might tweak that same routine until it gets perfect, but you can slowly add one or two things over the years to your act. But it's not until you get down the road towards the end of that, not even the end, but like to a successful, stabilized milestone, that you can then return to enjoy that. Look what Doug Kahn did. He moved across the country to start working at Trick Supply so that he could be surrounded and immerse himself back in the magic. Beautiful. Beautiful. By the early 1980s, my showbiz career was on cruise control. I reached the happy point where I did all the shows I wanted to do with virtually no advertising or soliciting for gigs. All shows were either repeat dates or from agents who knew and trusted my work. By any measure, including monetarily, I was a successful entertainer. Around 1982, I began a slow evolution to the world of investments, second only to magic. Wall Street had been a passion since my early teens. I used the time spent while flying from gig to gig researching what to do with my showbiz earnings, and after a few years I realized I knew quite a bit about one particular area: mutual funds. In the early 1980s, I also became convinced that they were going to be the preferred investment vehicle of the future, and so I began publishing a newsletter to help the average person invest in funds. I assumed it would entail perhaps 4 or 5 days each month, and while I didn't expect to make any money, I thought it would help my subscribers avoid major investment mistakes and let me feel that I've contributed something important to society. Later on, and especially after the 9/11 attacks, I came to appreciate more fully the important contributions artists and entertainers provide within a free society. The newsletter grew rapidly and at its peak had 5,000 paid subscribers at $79 per year. In 1992, I established Weber Asset Management, Inc., a company dedicated to helping people invest prudently in no-load mutual funds. I never planned to retire from showbiz, but the success of my venture into the world of investments snuck up on me and began to consume my time. Within 6 years, we zoomed into the top 10% of America's 37,000 registered investment advisor firms, based on assets under management. And in 2015, I wrote a financial book for the public. Dear investor, what the hell are you doing? Then came the day when I realized I had to begin declining offers for out-of-town shows. After spending years building up my reputation as an entertainer, it was truly painful to say, no thanks, when a distant college or agent requested my services, but I had no choice. The one constant during those years was, and still is, my affiliation with the Psychic Entertainers Association, PEA, an international organization of those with a serious and vested interest in mentalism, hypnosis, and related fields of entertainment. Despite the name, most members excuse strong claims of psychic ability. For quite a while, it was my only formalized connection, other than regular meetings with a few close friends, to the world of mystery and entertainment. In 1993, the PEA bestowed upon me their most prestigious honor, the Dinger, the the Dunninger Memorial Award, awarded for distinguished professionalism in the performance of mentalism. 3 years after receiving that plaque, I volunteered in a fit of altruism mixed with foolhardiness to a lecture at our annual PEA convention. It was to be a critique of the performers who appeared on the shows there. Most of my PEA friends thought I was a mentalist who had gone mental. To put it mildly, they tried to dissuade me. Nonetheless, I persisted, believing it would be pulled off without anyone committing an atrocity upon any of my vital organs. During the Thursday and Friday night shows, I sat in the darkness with a pad and a pen, jotted down my thoughts about what I saw on the stage. Understand that all the performers at the PEA shows are members of a fairly restrictive organization, one which requires a demonstrative seriousness about the art of entertaining using mystery of the mind. Some members, while serious students of the art, rarely appear in front of audiences, but many others are full-time entertainers. And on a particular Saturday afternoon, I stood before this group of fellow performers and began with trepidation my point-by-point critique of the 8 entertainers we had seen during the previous 2 evening shows. The response, a full standing ovation, exceeded anything I expected. One member wrote into the organization's newsletter that it was the best lecture I've ever seen, and I've been going to magic conventions for nearly 50 years. More importantly, the subjects of my critiques were the first to pull me aside to say, in various ways, thanks, I needed that. I never volunteered to do the workshop again. Instead, for 6 of the next 7 years, the different convention chairmen asked me to repeat it, and I did. I take that as a verification that I provided a useful service to my fellow performers. From the moment I accepted the responsibility of offering my performance workshop to the Psychic Entertainers Association, I began the process of systematically noting and analyzing the big and the little things that helped or hindered performers in all branches of the magical arts. I believe that the workshops were well received in part because I dissected with great specificity what I saw on stage, seeking to eliminate the rough edges and otherwise smooth performances. After those sessions, a number of people suggested I write a book based on my lectures. At first, the idea seemed preposterous. After all, my comments targeted specific moments in shows I had seen, and which I had been seen by the attendees at my lectures. As the years passed, however, it became clear that certain themes of advice repeated themselves, and those concepts coalesced into the framework for this book. But I recognized that the individuality of performers makes comprehensiveness impossible. I could pen 1,000 pages and it still could not substitute for a live, knowledgeable mentor scrutinizing your particular act. Nonetheless, by reading this book, you will increase your ability to, and in effect, mentor yourself. And if you should be fortunate enough to have a trusted friend or true director evaluate you, after digesting my advice, you will be better equipped to accept or argue against any particular piece of advice with greater clarity and intellectual strength. We are on page 12 of 14. We still got these couple of pages left here. We're going to take a step back real quick. Okay? And we want to do some magic for you. We do want to break this up a little bit. And of course, with the timestamps, you can always skip back. We'll make sure the chapters are in there for you. So, I'm not sure what I have set up here for you. We just grabbed a random deck. And, yeah. Let's take a look. Make sure that we got a full deck of cards here. And I think what we're going to use today... Well, we don't have a full deck of cards because we're missing a joker. I don't know where the other joker went. Sometimes they just... Oh, there it is. They play jokes on you. Okay, so with two jokers in mind, here's what I want to do today. I want to have a card selected. And in this case, it's going to be the 7 of clubs. Now, if we take the 7 of clubs back into the deck, somehow we're going to get the jokers to find that card. From over here, we're just simply going to drop them to the table. And you can see a card jump from the deck into between the jokers. Ha-cha. Beautiful. Some nice little magic for you there. We took a little bit of a break. Give the vocal cords a rest. I'm going to jump up and I'm going to do some wall push-ups, modified push-ups against the wall for you. And if you're watching, stretch your legs. Don't bend your neck. Breathe through it, okay? Because when we have a habit, when we're on our phones and our devices, we crane our necks. So we want to stretch out our necks, stretch out our limbs. If you've been sitting here a while, I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us for this. We're just going to take a stretch break. If you need to, go ahead and skip. Here we go. Some modified push-ups just to get the blood flowing. Now, we can do regular push-ups, okay, but we just want to stay engaged with the audience, right? So we're going to go ahead and do 10 quick ones. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to do 5 slow ones. 1, 2, 3, breathe through it, 4, 5. Very nice. Okay, now we're going to do 10 more quick ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm trying to breathe through it. 9, 10, and I don't want to hit my head. Now we're going to do 5 more slow ones. 1, breathe, 2, 3, 3, just kidding. 5, there we go. Okay. Shake it out. Very nice. Now, the point of that, whereas push-ups are good, but the point is to get the blood flowing, to keep things moving around for us. Okay. Let's get back into it here as we go along. We only got a couple more pages left for you. Really do appreciate it. Make sure you pay attention to those giveaways. Make sure that if you need to, there'll be a link down below for Amazon for any of your Amazon shopping needs. I could also probably put it up top here. Okay. Let's get back into it. Pardon me, your slip is showing. See what I'm doing here? Now that I've got the blood flowing, we've woke ourselves up, we can get back into it. The subtitle for this book is Director's Notes for Magicians and Mentalists. For that was the genesis of this project, my director's notes. A true stage director must report his or her views honestly and directly. And likewise, in these pages, you will encounter a bluntness rarely seen in a typical magic praise. In any educational exercise, specific examples always provide greater usefulness than generalities. Generalities. That's why this book names names. Some will be offended, sorry. At this stage of my life, I see no need to hide behind broad brush statements. So when I can point to a particular performer or a specific moment within an act to illustrate a line of reasoning, I do. However, be assured that I do it always with deep respect for my fellow entertainers from my earliest days of reading our literature. I realize that this is a unique and special brotherhood and increasingly a sisterhood spanning age, religion, race, and geography. Despite what you may infer from some of my criticisms, I love magic and mentalism and all those who share my enthusiasm for this art form. Is magic an art? Of course it is. It's a subset of the performing arts. My lectures were well received in part because I developed a reputation for fairness, and I know there is no performer who cannot teach me something. I need to let you in on a little secret. I will be commenting on and offering suggestions about the performances of a number of contemporary magicians and mentalists, including some of the most respected, and I am intensely jealous of each of them. I wish deeply that I possessed their skills. I don't, but that of course does not invalidate my observations. Each comment needs to stand on its own, apart from me, and it's up to you to decide whether I am on or off target. Occasionally, after one of my lectures, a performer whom I reviewed would come up to me and explain in one fashion or another that that's not what I usually do. I understand that they want to be seen in the best light. Who doesn't? However, for the purposes of this review, I could go only with what I saw. It's the same for the comments you'll read in this book. I fully recognize that I am commenting on routines that in some cases are not fully formed, routines these performers may never perform for a paying audience. Is that fair? Yes, for several reasons. First, in general, my comments are about the performances that are for sale to the magic world on DVD or video download. As such, they are fair targets for honest commentary. Second, the performers choose to put these moments out before us. I didn't sneak into a rehearsal or a backroom session, but mostly I made the decision to choose performances that you, the reader, can access. Also, I use specific moments to make a general point. So while the performances being discussed may not be an accurate representation of that particular artist's repertoire, my suggestions are aimed at magical performers generically, not genetically. What? You're a genetic performer, Harry. I don't. Please take note. You should make notes about my notes. I said that earlier. Tab the book, underline stuff, get your highlighter out. This is your book. Well, this one's mine. But you can have one too. All you gotta do is remember to click those super thanks and the super chats. They'll be available, remember, up to 3 hours after each of my premieres. You should make notes about my notes. This book is not sacrosanct. It's an opinionated and sometimes borderline rude how-to manual. Mess it up. Talk back to me. Never pick up this volume without a pen, pencil, or highlighter in your hand. Really strong thing that I learned many moons ago. Question everything. And here's why. So in this situation, a teacher, a history teacher, presented a piece of information to the class, telling us that the Earth was the center of the solar system. Because at one point in time, thousands of years ago, we believed that. Now, my phone is ringing. I apologize. Derailed my line of thought. Terrible. Anyway, he presented it to the class as part of the lesson. Some of the people actually believed what he was saying. And I was on familiar basis with the teacher, and I was like, I already knew. So I didn't question what I questioned what you were saying in the sense that I didn't believe it because I already knew that it wasn't true. And he said that's not quite the right approach, because even if you think you know, you should still question all of the information. So this is something that I took to heart. Question everything and continue to grow every single day. Never pick up this volume without a pen, pencil, or highlighter in your hand. When you agree with a point, reinforce it with an underline. When you see something that resonates with your performance style or situation, dog-ear the corner. When you read a section and think, this guy is nuts, you'll gain further insight by committing your thoughts to the margins. Writing it out helps ensure that you agree or disagree with me in a cogent, non-emotional manner. As an admirer of the person who machetes his or her own path through life, I want you to rebel against any of the suggestions offered herein, but only if you can justify to yourself why you are breaking a rule. In other words, if I meet you in the hallway after your show and ask you why you ignored one of my edicts, don't worry, I won't. You should be able to articulate your reason for veering from my roadmap. Not for me, for you. Do not tread your own way merely out of laziness or obstinacy. For maximum success, attack the goal of entertainment in a thoughtful and methodical manner. In advertising, it's said that 50% of every ad budget is wasted. The problem is you never know in advance which 50%. Similarly, for you, much of this book will tell you things you find painfully obvious or that you have already garnered from your own experience. But again, until you read the book through, you won't unearth the gold nuggets that apply to you. The science of entertainment. Never. The art of entertainment does not lead itself to scholarly studies of empirical data. Well, Joshua Jay, along with some scholars at the University of New Jersey, have somewhat negated that statement. And that's as it should be. If entertainment could be quantified, the mystery would evaporate. Entertainment is a personal experience. The delight of the moment takes place exclusively between the ears of each participant, not on the stage, but in the brain. No two individuals experience the same concert, the same comedy act, the same movie, the same magic act. Where you sit, your preconceptions about the show, your relationship with your companions, your hearing and visual acuity, what you ate or did not eat, your general state of health and mind, all factor into the entertainment experience. And so it follows that achieving entertainment is shooting at a moving target. One size will never fit all. Every audience presents new opportunities and challenges. I try to steer clear of idealistic theorizing. I want my advice grounded in practicality. Theory has its place, but from the start, I wanted this book to be well larded with real-world advice for real-world performers at every level, from the hobbyist to the most successful professional. This is not a here's what I saw at a magic club checklist of errors made by neophytes. So please don't dismiss my tidbit of advice. It's here because someone who should have known better didn't, and that someone in almost all cases was a professional magician or mentalist. When I urge that you not do something, I rarely provide an alternative action or line of pattern. I cannot be creative for you. Directors shape, push, and polish performances. It's usually up to the others, the author, the playwright, the composer, or in this case, you, to create. Nothing you're about to read is pie-in-the-sky stuff written in an ivory tower. It's all real world. My world and your world. Whew, that's absolutely solid. I love that. As an introduction, that brings us full circle to start us. But even in the introduction, we already got those gold nuggets that he was talking about. And that's chapter 1, which we will do next time. So, hope you enjoyed the structure of what we got going on for these read-alongs. We're going to continue with chapter 1 tomorrow. Whew. Really appreciate it. But before we go, I want to bring up something on my phone here real quick for you. I'm going to go over to Audible, as well as bring this over. This book stays in my coat right here in my pocket because this is what I'm currently working on. This is the Animan 202 Methods of Forcing. So that's the live book that I keep in my pocket. I say live in the sense that it's physical paper book. I can take this out if I'm someplace that I shouldn't be on my phone, and I can read it because usually a book can get past where an electronic device cannot. Now, what am I reading currently, or what am I trying to absorb? Sleights of Mind. It's a neuroscience. It's a book on neuroscience and magic. Sleights of Mind, by Stephen L. Macknick and Susanna. Sorry, I have to open it up here. Susanna Martinez Condi. I do apologize if I mispronounced that. So go ahead and check out that. It's on Audible, or you can get the physical copy, or How Magicians Think. It's also a great one to consider, by Joshua J. So those are the reading materials that I want you to look into for the week. Don't forget to stay around or to share with other people so that we have an opportunity to do the sponsored book gift away for the Maximum Entertainment 2.0. Thank you, everybody. And remember, stay positive, stay active, and stay awesome. Hopefully, we see you. There he is. In the next one. Of course, don't forget to subscribe right over here. And the best video for you will be over here on this side. Ta-da!